Okay, we're going to install WordPress on your server. After you've uploaded the WordPress installation files and base files up to your website through your web host, you're going to want to go to your URL, and then this site's going to show up first. And you're going to want to click on Create a Configuration File. This is the prerequisite stuff it's going to ask you before you install. So you're going to click here on Let's Go. And this is the stuff that you're going to get from your web host. This is your database information from MySQL. You're going to want to retain your database name, your username, your password, and sometimes in some instances you're going to want to keep your database host too. A list of them is right here. If you are on 1&1, DreamHost, GoDaddy, ICDsoft, Media Template Grid Server, Pair Networks, Rackspace Cloud, Yahoo, or TopHost, there's a chance that you might actually be changing the database host information. But in this example, we won't really need to. So, okay, I'm going to enter my username and my password, and my database host is staying the same. It's going to be localhost. Your table prefix is used in case that you need to install more than one WordPress in one database. Sometimes this is useful if you're creating a lot of small blogs and you don't need to have a ton of databases sitting on your web host. If you're going to create a larger blog, however, it might be better if you go ahead and do a separate database for it though. After your information is in, you're going to hit submit. And if everything runs and checks out okay with your web host, this should show up. Otherwise, it'll say error establishing database connection. So you want to run the install. This is where it actually puts all the tables in the database. Okay, and here's your blog. Here is and your email address. And usually you want to keep this checked if you're going to have a public blog. Install WordPress. And here's your username and password. You are all set. Okay, after you've logged into your new WordPress blog, you're going to go to the dashboard. We're just going to cover some things about the dashboard really quickly. This is an overview of your site. It's pretty much your site in one shot. As you develop your blog, you'll see different things on here that will start to change over time. A couple of things about the dashboard. Clearly this up here is a link to your actual blog if you wanted to go and take a look at it. And over here on your left is your navigation. You're going to find that, and this should be a pretty standard for a lot of people. Also, a little thing about the navigation along the side is that if you'll notice in between where each of these navigation bars break, your icon will change, your mouse icon. If you click on that, that'll actually compact your navigation on the side so you can save yourself a little bit more screen room if you have a limited screen. So you want to really try and maximize your real estate. Your stuff will come out, you just hover over it, and it'll all just come out here on the side instead. So it might save you a little bit of room. And you can click back in and it'll restore itself. Up here at the top, you'll have these things that it's commonly used things that you may want to do real quick that you don't want to necessarily have to navigate to along the menu, or if you're somewhere else you don't want to have to try and find your way back to it. New posts, new pages, you upload media in your media library such as photos and other things, and then also your comments section. So that's a quick thing. This right here, the right now, basically shows exactly what your blog is about. Tell you how many categories, pages, posts, tags, and how many comments you have, including the ones that are visible, the ones that you need to moderate in case they're spam, and the ones that have been flagged as spam. Also, it shows your theme, how many widgets you're using, and what type of WordPress you're using. If for any reason that you need to update it, it'll display it here, and it'll also display it down here. You can change your theme by clicking on this button very quickly. So, recent comments, if you have a comment that you may feel that you want to comment back on, or maybe maybe it shows that maybe it might be something that's spam, you'll see some of the recent comments here with also a quick menu that pops down that you can do right there from the dashboard. If you say, well, that's actually a spam comment, I want to spam it, or maybe even just want to delete it. Plugins, this is from WordPress itself. It's actually feeding to you directly. It's showing you kind of new plugins, popular plugins, recently updated ones. So in case it's something that you might be interested in, kind of keeps you in the loop about what's going on in the plugins. Drafts, this is something that if you keep a lot of drafts for common use, or maybe it's something you haven't completed, it'll show there. It's not really something that's used that much depending on where you are. Also, the WordPress development blog shows you what's going on in the WordPress world, such as right now, as of the recording, Beta 2 just came out for WordPress 3.0, so if some people like to see what's going on in the new versions of WordPress, it'll show you that kind of stuff here. Other WordPress news, it's just basically their feed of their different things. And your incoming links down here at the bottom. Your incoming links will basically show you how many people are linking to your blog. So basically what you want to do is just find out if you wanted a quick overview without having to do the manual searching yourself. That will do that for you. So it's a really nice thing to have. Also, another thing is that the WordPress news is configurable, and so is incoming links. If you wanted to configure exactly where the reader was for your incoming links, you can click on the configuration right here and adjust it accordingly. This is a little bit more advanced, so some people may not want to do this. So if you have a lot of items coming in and new ones coming in every day, maybe you want to see which ones are coming in, or if maybe you don't really care, you just want to show 5. If you want to display the date that they were added, you can do that too. So it's just a quick option for you to have. Same thing for the other WordPress news, you can configure it. And the best part about other WordPress news is that this is actually a feed reader. So if you have something maybe in your industry that you want to use, you can actually put anything you want in here, any feed at all. So if you wanted to feed from your favorite blog or your top digs or your stumble upon, you can put any feed in there. It just says WordPress news for now. So if you want to, that's just a quick feed reader for you to use at your disposal. It's not just WordPress news. Another handy feature about the dashboard that a lot of people don't really know about is the screen options and help sections. These are actually everywhere, and they're configurable across a multitude of pages, so they kind of change depending on what page you're on. But where it has some of the most robust options is on the dashboard. So if you click this, a drop down will come up, and you can basically show what you do or do not want to see every time you log in. Other WordPress news, the development blog, your drafts, that kind of stuff you don't really care about, so it doesn't really matter and you don't need to use it. The plugins, and you can make all that go away. Also, if you have a lot of dashboard widgets, a lot of plugins might start to display them after a while, and so it's kind of making it crowded. You can adjust how many columns your dashboard is showing, and that'll automatically update, and you can switch things around on the fly. So I want that right there, my recent comments on the right, and that can help you organize it in a different way. Let's say if you have a lot of widgets. So that's another thing that you can do with the screen options. One last thing I didn't mention was the quick press. Quick press basically allows you to, if you have a quick thought or something that you just really need to get down really fast, you can put that in the quick press area. It does not have a rich text editor like the regular posting does, so remember that. So this is usually very plain text content that you're going to be putting in the quick press area. So that pretty much does it for the dashboard, and we'll see you in the next video. Alright, right here is the post section. Basically what you do is you go over to post in the navigation, you click on add new, and basically what you want to do is, the very basics of it is you add a title and some content and you hit the publish button. That's basically the overview of posts. There's a lot more details to it. First of all, you have your rich text editor here. That means basically it works just like Microsoft Word or an open office document. So whatever you want it to do, it will do for you. Such as if you want to hit bold, you don't have to know the HTML behind it, you just click the bold button and there you go. And the same thing applies if you want to do italics or strike through, it'll do it all for you. If you prefer to work in HTML, there's a tab over here that you can use to work in HTML. But if you want to just stick with a visual editor, you can just stick right there. And it has all the standard options, bulleted text, lists, block quotes, the left and right adjustment, and ability to add links, and also spell checking. Spell checking is kind of slow in WordPress. You might just want to stick with the spell checker that your browser provides, and just about all of them provide one. So another good thing about WordPress is the read more, and this is called insert more tag. And what that basically does is it allows you to cut off how much content you're providing on your home page. So if you only want to show a little snippet of your blog post, and have people be able to go to another page to read the full thing, it kind of keeps your front page compact and clean and sleek. That way you're not showing massive blog posts for all this content loading that people have to wait for. This allows things to go very fast and very smooth, and just have your people scan over it to see what they want. Another valuable tool that a lot of people don't really use is the full screen mode. You click on this and this will put everything into your full screen. So if you have a tendency to write long blog posts, or you have a tendency to edit things in a very stylistic way and you want to see what it all looks like, you can use this full screen option. So don't forget that that's there. It's a very useful thing. And there's also a thing called the kitchen sink. It's a very quirky little thing about WordPress. It's all the advanced options inside of WordPress. You click on it, it'll give you the more advanced options. They're not as commonly used. It has an undo and a redo, and also this help section here. But there's a lot of things that you have in there that you're not going to use as often, such as your headings and stuff like that. But just know that it's there in case you want to use it. So that's the kitchen sink. On your right hand side, you have your publishing options. You can save it as a draft, preview it before it's published, and then you have these three items down here. This is the status of your actual blog post. If you click edit on that, right now it's a draft because I haven't published it, but if it was published, it would say published. But you also have a couple different options. If you have a multiple author blog running, or if someone else has to review it, you can put a pending review on there. And that will allow people to basically say, hey, this is ready to be reviewed and published. I just need you to take a look at it first. So that's a really good option if you're a multiple author blog owner. This is your visibility, is the next one. Right now the visibility is public, so that means that the moment that you hit publish, it'll start going on your home page immediately. There's a couple different options you have though. First of all, under public, there's a little option that says stick this post to the front page. That's basically a sticky, such as in a forum sticky. Basically, it doesn't matter what else comes before or after it. This will always be in the top first post of your front page. So if you have something that's important that you want to announce to your blog, you basically want to put that as a sticky post, and that's how you do that. The next one is password protected. Basically, it'll still show up to everybody as a post that you can view, but in order to view it, after they've clicked on it, they're going to have to enter a password to see all the content. So this allows you to keep maybe protected content under passwords, such as downloads and videos and premium content. You just put it under a password and you can distribute that password to certain people for them to view. So it's a good feature to use, but remember that the password you have to give out. So the next one is kind of like password protected, except for no one's going to be able to really view, not too many people are going to be able to view this except for certain users. Non-registered guests will not even be able to see that this is even a post if it's set to private. A private post is exactly that. It's for not many people. So if you set something to private and send somebody to it and they're not a registered member of your site, they're not going to see it. It'll actually show up as a 404 error. So something to keep in mind. A lot of times you're just not going to use private posts. A lot of times you use either password protected or public posts. So. All right, and then the next one is when you decide to publish something. That's why it says right now publish immediately. So if I click on this publish, it'll automatically go to my front page in my blog roll on my home page. So, but if you click edit, you can adjust the date whenever you're going to post your blog. A lot of people, when they first have a blog, they want to show that they have some content, so they'll maybe put it in the past, such as, maybe put it a couple months ago and make it look like an older post. But also another great feature about this is that you can actually schedule your posts. So maybe you want to do all of your blogging in one time frame, and you just set to have it drip feed its content over the course of maybe a couple days. So let's say you have 10 articles and you want to publish them once a day. Well, you don't have to go back every single day and publish it. You can publish all your articles at once and just schedule them to post on a different day. So basically this one I want to maybe schedule for the 9th, so I want this to go tomorrow. So I click OK, and it actually says schedule for, and this changes the schedule. So it's a really handy feature if you want to keep yourself organized and kind of maximize your time instead of always having to come back and do the same tasks every day. So Down here, next option is the post tags. Basically, these are little keywords that you want to put in there to kind of let people know what your individual post is about. If it's about the iPhone, you want to put iPhone in there. If it's about money, you want to put money in there. And it's also, the more of the same tag you use, the more prominent it'll be on your site. Therefore, if you want to use maybe a keyword or a tag cloud, the more times you use the word money in there, it's gonna show up as a bigger word in your tag cloud. Categories, just a way to keep your posts structured so that in case people are looking for a category that you had designated, like I said, once again, if you were talking about iPhones, maybe if you were talking about an iPhone app, you would have an apps category. And that way people will maybe you always want to read your blog, but really want to read more about, let's say, the iPhone apps, they're going to go to the apps category. Down here is a couple of optional things. These are not required when you are posting, but it's something that maybe some themes use or maybe some plugins use. So just kind of keep it in mind whenever you're using that. So an excerpt is basically a summary of what your post is about, kind of like the stuff that's above your read more link. Some themes use it, some themes don't. Try it out with your theme and find out, so you're not writing excerpts for no reason. Trackbacks, don't worry about that too much. It's not something that's really used that much. Custom fields, what you want to do is that's something that's also can be used by themes and plugins, but if it's not used, then don't even worry about it. So basically you can say, videos I'm watching, happy feet. And that basically, it'll show up in your theme. It can tell you your mood sometimes and stuff like that through a custom field. And also down here at the bottom is discussion. This is the different things that will allow collaboration across your blog. Comments, basically, if you want people to be able to comment on the blog post, you just allow the comments. Allow trackbacks and pingbacks. Basically what that is that whenever somebody links to you, it'll notify the other blogs whenever you're, posting an update or something along those lines. And blogs will also let you know when they're linking to you. So, but if you don't want to allow that kind of stuff for different privacy reasons and stuff like that, you can just simply uncheck them. And that about does it for posts. Basically, there's a couple more advanced options that we'll cover later on in other videos, but this pretty much does it for adding a post. All right, the next section is editing posts. This is basically your overview where you're going to maintain and utilize your posts in the most quickest and most efficient way possible. To go to edit posts, you just go to posts and click on the edit tab right under it. It's going to give you an overview of every post that you have, whether it be a draft or a published one, or even a scheduled one, or even ones that you may have trashed. First thing that you want to look at on here is the screen options, just like I said on the dashboard. Maybe if there's something that you don't really want to take a look at because you don't really notice too much about it, maybe you don't allow comments on your blog, or maybe you just don't ever add tags. You don't really necessarily always need to see them, so you can just get rid of them. Or maybe if you don't want as many to show up, or maybe you want more to show up, you can do that right here on the screen options. So always remember to make sure to look at those screen options whenever you're on a page. On the right hand side, you have the ability to search for posts. If you have hundreds and thousands of posts, which you will over time if you post regularly as your blog builds up, you're going to want to be able to search through them, because to go through them page by page is going to get very redundant after a while. Also, if you have very common titles and you have very unspecific post titles, sometimes you want to also include an excerpt with each of your posts. Basically gives you an overview of kind of what your post is about right there, but you can show and hide that if you want to. Okay, under each post, if it's a draft, it'll show up right there. And if it's public, it'll just show up as the title. But under here, you have a couple of different options available. Obviously, the edit one basically takes you to the post screen that we had earlier, and it'll give you all the options available. Another one is quick edit. Now, if you open this up, it'll show you a bunch of different things available. Basically, all the supplemental stuff that you wanted to do, with the exception of the actual content itself, you could pretty much do with a quick edit. So if you wanted to make it a private or a password protected post, you could do that right there. If you wanted to schedule it for a different time, you want to change a category and add a tag, or stop allowing comments, or make it a sticky, you can do that all right from this screen right here, and it'll update as soon as you click the update button. So basically everything but the content itself can be edited through quick edit. Okay, another obvious feature right here is the trash. This used to be a delete feature, but people like the option of being able to restore something later. So if you click the trash you're gonna send that to the trash section, and it'll show you right here, move to the trash. You can undo that if you want. But then this link shows up if you have something in your trash area. So you click that, and there's your post. And this is the area where basically what you want to do is you either want to empty your trash through this button right here, or if you want to maybe restore your post, you say, well, I didn't mean to delete that one. Or you can say, yes, this one I just want to get rid of. And that will actually delete it permanently, and you can never get it back. So if you're choosing to empty the trash, make sure you're emptying what you want gone forever. But if you want to restore something, let's say if you have accidentally deleted, you can just click the restore link, and it'll go back to the regular section. So there's nothing in the trash anymore. Go back to all, and now it's back to where it used to be. Preview is obviously pretty self-explanatory. It's the preview that it'll actually show it on the front end of your blog. So a couple of different things up here. If you have multiple things that you maybe want to move to the trash at the same time, you can check them with a checkbox and move them all at once. Just hit the apply button. Also, if you have a bunch of posts and you don't want to necessarily know what to search for and the excerpts aren't working, you can view things by dates or categories, and you can filter it and narrow it down a little bit more there. That pretty much does it for the edit post section, and we're going to move on to the next video. Alright, and we're about to wrap up posts here. I just want to talk about two quick things that are on here that you're not going to really visit that much, but you may visit once or twice every now and again. And I just wanted to go ahead and go over them real quick. The first one is tags, and the second one will be categories. We'll go over that in a second. The tags are basically those one-word keywords that you're going to associate with each of your posts. If you wanted to go ahead and if you wanted to just add them right here or be able to edit them here, you're going to go to this tag section. Some themes, but not many, once again, are going to utilize a description of a tag. So maybe if you wanted to use that, you can, but it's not really something that's very big that you needed to do. The categories section is something that you might want to visit. The categories basically is pretty self-explanatory. You have a category name and sometimes a description, but once again, check with your theme on that. But the major thing about a category is you can have this thing called a category parent. Basically, you can set up subcategories within your site for your posts. So let's say if we're using the example of Apple again, well, you can have maybe, let's say, an Apple category, but then you can have subcategories of each of its products, such as the iPhone, the iPad, the Mac Mini, the Mac Pro, so on and so forth. And then within each of those, let's say that you have your iPhone, you can have maybe the App Store, or maybe iPhone Generation 1, or new features, or gossip, or latest news, rumors. So you can kind of nest them upon each other and have a much more structured setup of your blog. So that pretty much does it for categories. One other thing that's a really useful option inside of categories is if you go to your category section and you can see the different options that are available, you can also see how many posts are in your category. So if you have something that's got a whole lot of posts in it, and then maybe a category that maybe only has one or two, maybe you should take out that category and put it somewhere else. It's obviously not really doing what you want it to do. So this is kind of a nice little overview of exactly where the most of your blog content is basically being directed. So that pretty much does it for posts, and next we are going to move on to links. Okay, now we're going to talk about links. Your links or links section inside of your WordPress blog is basically a link that moves or goes to anything outside of your site. So it's not anything that's going inside of, from one page to another. It's actually going to another website altogether. A lot of people will put resources they commonly use, blogs, or other sites they commonly enjoy into their links section. This is also called your blog role. So basically, whenever you want to add a new link, you basically click on the Add New button. After you've clicked on the navigation right here under Links and click Edit, you can click Add New, or you can go to Add New right here. You click Add New, and basically it'll give you all the options for adding your link. Your name is basically the text they're actually going to be clicking on when they're adding the link. So let's just say your name is My New Link. And the web address is the actual place they're going to be going to. So that would be, in this case, let's say Google. The description is basically what's going to show up when the person puts their mouse button or hovers it over your link but doesn't click on it yet. It's also good for SEO purposes. So sometimes that's something that you may want to put in there. So description, maybe Google will be another good one. Add the category of where your link is going to be placed, and we're going to just put it in the blog roll for now. And there's a couple of optional things down here, but you don't have to worry about a lot of these. Some people will worry about target. A lot of people will put it so that their link will just show up in a new window. So they don't actually leave their blog, it just goes somewhere else temporarily and then come back to it easily. You want to do blank for that, or it's a new window. So a couple other different things down here. You don't really need to worry about it. It's link relationships and advanced options. 90% of the time, you're never going to use that. So also there's an option to keep it private. Once again, not something you're going to use too much. So just hit add link and you are done. It'll show up right here under link added, and then you can basically go back to your link section and my new link will show up right there. And that pretty much does it for the link section. We're going to go over one more thing real quickly, and that's link categories. Link categories is basically the same as categories. You're just basically being able to put them in your links in there instead of your posts in there. So that pretty much covers link categories. You kind of know how it works if you looked at the categories section. All right, that pretty much does it for links. All right, let's talk about pages. Pages are pretty much the exact same thing as posts, except for they're a little bit more static and they're a little bit more consistent and constant on your site, and they're not so much something that you maybe want to put in your blog roll, but it's something that you want to make sure that every visitor has ready and available access to. Things such as your About Us, your terms and conditions, your privacy policy, your Contact Us page, all of those things would be pages instead of posts, and they're a lot easier to access, and they're a lot more static, and they don't really change much. So diving into pages here, basically on the navigation bar under pages, you want to click Add New, or if you're in the Edit Pages section, you can click the Add New button right next to its title. So click Add New, and you're going to come up upon a pretty familiar page. It almost looks exactly like the Add New Post page, and that's because it is almost exactly like it. It's pretty self-explanatory. Just like posts, you add your title and then you add your content as necessary, and then all these options are exactly the same, and things below it are almost exactly the same as well. A couple of different things about a page is the attributes right down here under the Publish section. First of all, one of the good things about pages is that you have the ability to create sub-pages within pages, almost like a hierarchy or a tree of paging sections. So, a good example right here is actually the one that's right below it. Basically, if you have an About Us page, you can also put individual members of your company or something like that, or maybe your life story or how your company got there, or something about your site that maybe not just be covered in a single About Us page. So it's good to have those sub pages in there as well. Another thing that you want to look at is the template. Not all pages are created equal. Sometimes you have archive pages, sometimes you have link pages, and sometimes you have contact us pages. And theme developers recognize that, and depending on the theme that you get, sometimes you'll have a different template that you can apply to your page. The one that comes with WordPress by default, and that's the one we have installed right now, has an archives and a links template that you can apply to the page that you have. So keep that in mind if you're creating a page that maybe not just a page full of content, or maybe something that you just wanted to show as something else. And the last thing that you have an ability to do is your order. By default, they're usually ordered alphabetically, but if you want to, you can change the order of something if you don't want it to be alphabetical. So let's say if you wanted to have something be more prominent, or one of the earlier links, or maybe if you want it at the end, you can change the order of all your pages, and you can do that right there. And that pretty much covers pages. Like I said, it's a lot like posts, and you're going to grasp this pretty quickly. So those are the only really main differences about a page. So. All right, now we'll move on to the next section. All right, this is your comments section. Basically, this section is more for moderation than it is anything else. You can do a wide variety of things on here, but for the most part, it's just for general house cleaning and keeping up with the comments on your site. You're going to have a couple of different options inside of here. First of all, you're going to be able to see what kind of approved comments that you have that are actually public and displayed on your blog. Another thing you're going to have is as your blog gains reputation and gets out there on your search engines, you're going to start to get spammed comments. You can cut down on that with a variety of plugins and things like that, but there's still going to be ones that are going to be in there. You're just going to get spam. That's just the way it is. So you basically what you want to do is you want to look in there every now and again, and you want to basically clean it out. It keeps your blog nice and clean and nice and running very smoothly if you make sure that your trash is emptied and that your spam is kept to a minimum. So also you're going to have some sometimes valid comments that are sometimes just sent to the spam folder, either because they included a couple of link resources in there or maybe put in a couple of bad keywords that made it flagged as spam. So you do want to search through your spam and search through your pending comments and approve them or deny them as necessary. But basically this comment section is just to kind of keep up on what people are discussing about inside of your blog and basically keep out all the bad comments to make sure that your viewers aren't turned off and your readers aren't turned off to any bad comments that are on your site. And there are some more advanced options in the settings that we'll cover later, but that pretty much does it for comments for right now. Okay, now we're going to cover themes. This is a very big and very important section of WordPress because everybody wants a custom look and feel of their blog. It is a signature, a personification of who they are as a person. And the way that you do that is you do that with a custom theme. There are a wide variety of themes available in WordPress. We'll go over on how to add those in a minute. But this right here is the basic overview of how to manage your themes. If you click under the Appearance tab in your navigation, and you go to Themes, this is where you're going to find your Themes section. You're going to be able to view your current theme that you have activated, which is showing up on your actual blog right here. And you're also going to be able to see the other available themes that you have inside of your actual themes folder on your site. If you wanted to be able to take a look at different themes and without actually having to change your front end, you can click the preview link and it'll actually pull up an actual view of what the theme is going to look like. And you over here, if you want to, if you say I do like that, you can click it and click activate, or you can click the X and get out of there. So if you want to delete the theme off there, that's not the default one, you can click delete, but this is not a trash situation where you can just restore it if you want to by clicking a link. Once you delete it off here, the files are gone off your server, so make sure you either have a backup or it's definitely something that you want to delete. If you want to change it right here, you can click activate. A lot of different people will either use a Christmas theme or a different holiday-based theme to kind of switch it up as time goes on, or maybe they're trying on a couple different themes, so they activate different ones at different times. That is basically how you're going to be able to manage your themes within here. This is a very rough overview, and we're going to go into some of the more details in a little bit. And so the next section is how to add a new theme. Okay, now that we've talked about how to manage your themes, let's talk about how to get a new theme or add a new theme. So if you want to add a new theme, basically you go under the Appearance tab and go to Add New Themes, or if you're under the Manage Themes section, you can click the Add New button right to the right of the title. This will bring up a small section where basically WordPress now allows you to search for the many themes available right from your own blog instead of having to go to WordPress itself. So if you wanted to search for a particular theme, you can just do a search for maybe certain colors or certain width or different features or different things like that. You can do that from right within your blog, and it'll actually pull the theme right to your blog for quick and easy installation and activation. So let's say that if you're looking for maybe a Halloween theme, you can either type in Halloween, or maybe you just want to use the colors black and orange. You can click on that, click Find Themes, and then you're going to get a section of themes that are all available for you to try and find. Here is Happy Halloween right there, and maybe another one right here that's Inferno. And you can look through and search through the themes that maybe match what you're trying to find. So another option that you have is sometimes that you're going to purchase a premium theme and you're going to want to be able to install that. Well, WordPress also covered that with the ability to upload a theme. So you click on the upload right here, and it's going to actually be able to let you upload a theme that's already in a zip file that you got when you purchased your theme, or you got it from somewhere that wasn't on WordPress. All you do is click Browse and find your theme on your hard drive, and then after you've found it, you're going to click Install Now, and it's gonna automatically install the thing for you. It's gonna upload it to your server, unzip the file, and put the files in their appropriate location automatically for you. No need to worry about FTP or anything along those lines. A word of warning though, sometimes some themes tend to be a little bit large. If you have something that's timing out or it's basically throwing an error message because it's not doing it right, you're probably running into a theme that's a little bit too large for your server to upload through your browser. If that's the case, you want to either hire somebody to FTP it for you, or if it's something that you know how to do, you can FTP it yourself. After you've installed it, after you've uploaded it, all you have to do is activate it and your theme's all set to go. And that's basically how you install a new theme on your blog. Okay, now we are going to cover widgets. This is one of the more prominent things that most blog owners like to use and like to customize about their theme is what is displayed in their sidebar. Their sidebar is the little bar along the side that basically shows useful information that should or need to be accessed from any part of any page inside of your site. So different themes are going to have any number of sidebars available. Some will have one, some will have two, some will have as many as 14. So you're going to have a wide variety available depending upon the theme that you select. And we're going to go through each of these things one at a time. So the archives. The archives are basically exactly what they say they are. Archives will basically give you a list of month and year of all your old posts. So however many posts you have across however many months is going to show up in an archive list. You are going to be able to show the post counts, how many posts are within each month and year, and that will basically keep growing as your blog grows. One thing about the archives though is that as you maybe accumulate up to 4 years worth of blog posts, that list is going to get pretty long. So WordPress gave you the option to display it as a drop down. So now instead of taking up 48 lines in your sidebar, which is pretty valuable real estate, you instead can display one line, which is a drop down. They can select it and it'll automatically go to that archive post. You simply give it a title and you're all set to go. Alright, the next is the calendar. If people want to go over maybe a posting that you did maybe earlier in the month but not necessarily old enough to go through the archives, which is over a month old, you usually want to be able to access that through the calendar. Every day that you post is going to show up as a link on your calendar, and WordPress will update that automatically for you for quick and easy access. It's a very handy feature in your sidebar. Your categories. Your categories will basically show all of the categories that you have, and it'll also, just like your archives, either be able to show it as a drop down if you have a large list of categories, and show how many posts that you have within each of your categories. And also another very handy feature is the hierarchy. Sometimes you want to be able to show all the subcategories within the categories, and sometimes you don't. So to be able to do that, you can just click the show hierarchy and it'll show all your subcategories for you. So that's a very handy thing to have to keep your blog structured and organized, is your categories. Your links. Your links is basically, like I said, your blog roll. You can show every single link here, and you have your different options available, such as the description if you decided to put one in there, and also an image, which is an advanced feature if you wanted to have an image next to each link. But the handy part about this was that if you want to, you can only show a certain category of links in this individual link section. So let's say if you want to have your links to your blog roll, but then you created another category, you can put in, you can save this, minimize that, and you can create another link section that shows a different category in there as well. So it's very handy to have. Your metadata. Your metadata is just a fancy way of saying your login, log out, and all that other, your feed link, and and your admin link, and the WordPress links, and all those little supplemental stuff that kind of didn't have a place but needed to be shown. So this will give you all those little links that you need to have on your site, especially if you have registered users that log in and interact with your site on a logged in basis versus a guest basis. So the metadata is very important to have if you have that kind of stuff. Pages. Very important thing about this pages section is not only obviously does it show your pages, but there's an extra feature in there that you want to have. Obviously, you can sort by page, different items such as your page order, page ID, or just the title is normal. But there's a little exclude section. Let's say if you had a thank you page or a password protected page that you didn't want the whole world to know about, you can exclude it by an ID. So let's say if you had page ID 3, and page ID 10, you could put that in there and it will not show up in that pages section. That's a very, very useful tool to have inside of this widget, is the exclude. You find pages by going to the pages section, which we'll do right now. And if you hover over it at the bottom of your browser, depending on what the browser is, it'll show exactly what your ID is. You can't see it right now for security reasons under this video, but if you highlight it, you'll see the link, and at the very, very end of that link is an actual number, and that number is your page ID. So you simply go back to your widgets, and you just simply enter that page that you want to exclude, and it won't show up. It's a very useful tool. Recent comments and recent posts are pretty much the same thing. They're pretty self-explanatory. You can add anywhere between 1 and 15 comments for people to show, and that really helps your visitors engage in your conversation and see what the latest stuff is on your site. So recent comments and recent posts are actually pretty good to put into your sidebar for quick access. The tag cloud, just like I spoke of earlier, will just display your clouds in just a very hodgepodge and mashed together way of the different tags you have on your site, with the one exception. If anybody's ever seen a tag cloud before, they obviously know what I'm talking about. The more of a single word that you add as a tag inside of all of your posts, the more prominent it will be in your tag cloud. Basically, this gives users a quick access to some of the most frequently discussed about topics on your blog, and it displays them all in link form, and whenever they click on that individual keyword, it will automatically take them to a page that shows every post that pertains to that tag. So it's actually pretty handy to use if you want people quick access to common topics that are spread across multiple categories or spread across your blog. The search feature usually is displayed at the top of a sidebar, and the good thing about the search feature is if you do not display a title, it will not show one. So it'll only display the search box and the search button. So it's actually a little tidbit there that not many people know about. So if you want a quick search on your sidebar to be able to search your entire site, you just simply add it to your sidebar. Alright, and the RSS feed. This is a very powerful tool that you can use inside of your sidebar. The RSS feed will basically allow you to enter any RSS feed URL, not just ones from your blog or your site, but any one that you can find on the internet. So if you have a blog that you enjoy reading, you talk about all the time, you can maybe put their feed in there. Or maybe if you have a certain feed from, let's say, a Google search or something along those lines, you can put that feed into here and it will display the posts in your sidebar and the little feed items for your visitors and your guests and your registered users to get quick access to. So it's a very valuable tool to use if, let's say, that you have frequently updating content from different areas of the net that you don't want to necessarily do all yourself. A good RSS feed in your sidebar will take care of that for you. And I saved one of the most commonly used, widely flexible, and one of the best widgets in the entire arsenal of widgets you have with WordPress for last. And that is your text. And this is basically a free-for-all, do anything you want, arbitrary text or HTML section. If you want to add a simple welcome comment, if you wanted to add latest news here, if you wanted to add AdSense code, if you wanted to add an opt-in code from, let's say, an autoresponder, you can add anything you want into this text box. We'll also go over things such as shortcodes later, but you can even add things along those lines as well. You can add just about anything into this text box and have it displayed upon your sidebar. It's a very, very, very powerful tool that's available because of how flexible it is. So, a couple other quick things I wanted to go over real quick is that you can add multiple of the same thing inside of your sidebar. Let's say if I had 3 different text things that I wanted to add, I can add them all into the same sidebar, which is a very handy tool. Also, let's say if you're working on something, let's say such as text or something along those lines, and you wanted to continue working on it, but you didn't want to necessarily show it on your sidebar just yet, you can keep it in the inactive widgets section. That will still save all the data that's inside of it, but it will not display it on your sidebar. So it's actually a pretty useful tool to have. And anytime you ever want to get rid of something in your sidebar, just simply drag it out and it'll go away. Same thing with the inactive widgets. You say, I don't actually want to add this to my sidebar, I want to get rid of it. Just drag it out and it'll auto update for you. You can also reorder your sidebar by simply dragging and dropping. There's no need to save. It saves everything automatically for you. So it's a very handy and very, very robust tool to use. And that pretty much does it for widgets. One other thing is that a lot of plugins will add widgets automatically to this section. So anytime you ever install a plugin, which we'll go over later, you'll want to come back and check this section to see if there's any useful widgets that have been added as a result of that plugin that you may want to display on your sidebar. Well, that pretty much does it for widgets. We'll see you in the next video. Okay, one other thing that I wanted to touch on really quick before we moved on to the next section is something that's a little bit more advanced, and you're not going to really use it that much, but it is a very valuable tool that WordPress provides, and that is the editor. Both themes and plugins are authored by different people, and WordPress gives you the option to be able to edit it directly in WordPress. So if you wanted to edit a theme, you can go under Appearance and click Editor, or if you wanted to edit a plugin, you can go under Plugins and click Editor. So if you click on one of these, it'll bring up all the files within an individual theme or plugin, and you can select them right here, and it'll give you a list of all the different files that are in that plugin or in that theme, and you can click on it, it'll load it automatically. What the useful part about this is if you know any coding or if you know any HTML and you wanted to be able to do a quick edit on your site, you don't have to download the theme through FTP or download the plugin. Or if you're outsourcing, you can just give your outsourcer access to your blog, and they can do it all from the back end right then and there. It saves you a lot of time, and it's a very handy tool that's available, but not one that's utilized too much. So I just thought I'd touch on that really quick before we moved on to the next section, would be the editors. Okay, let's talk about plugins. This is going to be a basic and quick overview of the plugins section, because quite frankly, one video or even 10 videos cannot even begin to cover all the aspects of what makes plugins so powerful and great to WordPress. Basically, they will make your WordPress blog do almost anything you want it to do. I've seen WordPress blogs become full e-commerce, shopping cart sites, and so many other things. Video blogs, podcasting sites, comic book sites, and so many other things through the use of plugins. There is virtually no limitations on what you can do with WordPress because of these plugins. So we're going to just basically go over an overview of how to basically manage your plugins. It's designed much the same way that the themes management is set up, so basically you'll kind of catch on pretty quickly after you get the grasp of themes. This will show you all the different plugins that you have currently on your site. If in order to activate a plugin, you simply click the activation link, and it will display as it'll be highlighted in white, and you can see under active and inactive right here which ones are currently active and running on your site and which ones are currently inactive but still available for you to activate. If you want to add a new plugin, it's much the same way that you do with themes. It gives you the ability to search the WordPress site right from your own blog, to be able to search for a new plugin and be able to add it immediately and install it for you to activate right away on your site. So it does it the exact same way that the themes does. Also, another feature available is just like the themes, is that if you purchased a plugin or got one that wasn't from WordPress, you can click on the upload, find it on your hard drive after you've browsed for it, and click install now, and it'll automatically upload, unzip, and install it onto your site for you to quickly activate. That's a pretty brief overview of the grasp of what plugins are. There's so much more stuff that you can talk about with plugins. I also recommend please donate to any plugin developers that you can. I know that sometimes money's tight, but they're giving you these plugins for free, and they put a lot of work and their heart and their soul into it. So please consider donating if you can spare any money. Even $1 to $5 is always greatly appreciated to developers. So That covers plugins. So now it's on to the next video. All right, the next section that I'm going to cover pretty quickly is the tools section. We're not going to cover everything in this right now. We're going to go over it a little bit more in detail a little bit later. But I'm going to touch on some things that are actually pretty important, but you're not going to use them too often. First one we're going to cover is importing. If you're migrating from a different blogging software such as Blogger or LiveJournal or maybe even another version of WordPress that you use on another site, this is a really handy tool to use. So you want to go to Tools and go to Import. And let's say if we were going from another WordPress install, we would simply click on this WordPress link here, and it would give you the instructions for each individual one. So you'd browse, find the file, upload it, and it would take care of everything for you. It's a very handy feature in WordPress. And that also rolls right into our next one, which is export. If you go under Tools and go to Export, you'll be able to export all of your data if you don't have a plugin that does it automatically for you. Into a particular file for you to keep archives and keep a backup copy in case something ever happens to your WordPress blog. So all you have to do is click the download export file. You can restrict which author you're exporting, but you can basically just download the export file and it'll save it for you. It's a very handy tool to have. And the last one is the one you'll probably see the most, and that's probably the upgrade. Whenever there's an upgrade available for WordPress, it'll display it pretty much all over your blog. It'll display it in the footer, in the header, it'll display it just about everywhere. And all you have to do is just click on the upgrade button and it'll take you to this page. Or if you want to, you can check it on this page. And what will happen is if there's ever an upgrade available, it'll give you a button that says upgrade automatically. And you can click that button, it'll automatically download the new files and install them for you automatically. It's a very handy feature instead of having to go in through your FTP and uploading them all individually and overwriting them and doing a database upgrade also. So that's all we're going to cover for tools right now, and we'll touch on it again a little bit later. All right, the users section. Users are basically anybody that's going to interact with your blog that's above a guest. A guest basically can just go into your blog and leave without ever contributing anything. But users are going to have much more than that. You're going to have users at multiple different levels. Most of them are going to be at a subscriber level, which basically they can read and then comment as well. So basically, this is the users overview where you can edit users and different actions such as that. You kind of probably already get a feel as to what this section, how it's pretty much laid out, because it's laid out very similar to pages and posts and all those other things. So you pretty much will get a quick grasp of exactly what this is. In order to add a new user, if you don't have users that can currently register themselves, which is a feature in the settings that we'll go over later, basically you can add them manually. So you can go under here under the users in the navigation, go to add new, and you can fill out all their information. So your username, their first and last, all this general stuff that you want to put in here. You also want to send the user the password by email. You can do that if you want. You can have that option in there. And down here is probably the most important part of it, and that's the role. Whenever you're adding a user, you want to be able to set the role to whatever they are going to be. There is 5 different roles available: subscriber, administrator, editor, author, and contributor. And depending on what you add depends on what they're going to be able to do. A subscriber and a contributor is only going to be able to do very, very limited things. A subscriber can only comment and read. A contributor is only going to be able to edit current posts and delete unpublished posts and very, very basic things. Basically, he's going to be able to help maintain some of the content but can't add any of his own. The author will be able to do all of that of contributor and subscriber, but also be able to publish posts, delete posts, and all those other things, basically, and also be able to upload media, such as photos, videos, files, things like that. And that's what an author can do. An editor can do almost everything that an administrator can that just basically pertains to content. They're going to be able to moderate comments. They're going to be able to approve posts and pages and things like that that the authors have put up. They're going to be able to do anything basically whenever it comes to content. So if it has something to do with content, then the editor is going to be able to do it. The administrator is going to basically be able to do everything that's in the site. That is the user that you are when you first installed your blog. You're going to be able to do everything content related plus all back-end stuff, such as being able to plugins and themes and other such maintenance type things that are within the site is going to be as of an editor, I'm sorry, of an administrator's role. So actually, WordPress has a roles and capabilities list within its codex, which is basically like its gigantic instruction manual. And you can find that under roles and capabilities if you search the WordPress codex. And it actually has a table for you to look at exactly what each of the users can do. And a lot of people don't really know exactly what each user can do. So this actual table is very, very useful to have. So, and you can get that actually at the link at the bottom of the screen. So, and that is pretty much what you do to add a new user. Another thing you can do is you can edit your own current profile, and that's basically very straightforward. You can do certain things such as adjust the back-end styles of it, a couple of little quirky features with the editors, your name and your contact info and your biographical info. And some themes will actually show this bio here. So this is something that you may want to add onto your actual profile. And also you can do your password change right there. And if you click profile, everything will be updated. And that pretty much does it for users. There's a couple little settings that we'll go over later for individual user settings. And that pretty much does it. So we'll go on to the next section. Alright, settings. There's actually a lot to cover in this because there's so many different things that you can do to tweak your blog to personalize it to your individual needs. We'll go this one section at a time, and we'll basically cover the gist of what's going on, as well as a couple of little hidden gems here and there that most people may overlook or might not necessarily know about. We'll start with general settings. This is basically the information about your blog and how certain items are displayed. If you ever wanted to edit your subheadline or your tagline, you're going to find that right here in general settings, and that's where you're going to be able to edit it. Your WordPress address URL and your blog address URL, 99% of the time, this is going to be exactly the same, but every now and again you have a special circumstance where it's not. If you're unsure, just leave it the way it is. The email address, this is where all the notifications are going to get sent. This isn't your user email address, this is where your notifications are. So after a while, let's say that you start to get a lot of comments and you start to get a lot of users registering all the time, you may want to switch that to a general catch-all email address that gets processed and funneled away somewhere. So that way every morning your inbox isn't flooded with anywhere between 10 to 50 system email addresses. So this is actually something that you maybe want to be able to change later on. In the beginning it's okay to have it as yours, but as you get more and more activity, it's something that you want to change. Membership. If you want anyone to register, your login meta will show it will show also a register link that people can register username and password and be able to sign up for your site. And if you check that box, that's what's going to show up there. The new user default role, you're always going to almost want to put that at subscriber. That is someone who can go in and put in comments and read. Anything above that, you run the risk of, messing up any of your blog posts. So you usually always want to keep that at subscriber. 99% of the time, it's where you're always going to keep it. Your time zone, that's what's going to be displayed whenever you're adding a post. It's going to show your local time to the rest of the world after you've added the post. So date format, if you're in a different country and your dates showed up a little bit differently, you can change that here. Same thing with time. And also the week starts on. This applies to the calendar in your sidebar. So if you want your week to start on Sunday instead of Monday or whenever, or maybe if you have an internal blog for employees and the pay period starts on Thursday, sometimes you maybe want to adjust your calendar accordingly. So, and that is all for the general settings. Alright, rights settings. This basically will allow you to do a couple of different default actions for writing blog posts, as well as some advanced blog posting actions. First of all, we're going to cover the size of the post box. So whenever you're posting a new post or page, and you either have a lot of content that you want to do without toggling to the full screen, you want to be able to just adjust the size of the post box there. Formatting, if you want to convert emoticons to actual images instead of just the emoticons themselves, you can do that here. And a little checkbox here that says WordPress should correct invalidly nested XHTML automatically. You can check this box to try and keep your WordPress as valid as possible, and it ensures a very similar look across all the browsers. But if you find that there's certain things that start to break in your theme as a result of you checking that, just sometimes if you uncheck or check this box, it'll fix that theme problem for you. So just something to keep in the back of your head in case you start to see that happening on your blog. Your default post category and link category, basically if you're posting in one section more than any others, you can set a default there and it'll kind of save you a step every time you're posting. Remote publishing. There's remote publishing software out there that allow you to publish from your desktop and it'll send it to your server automatically. The software will usually give you instructions on how to do this, but whenever that happens, you need to be able to enable it in WordPress itself. And this is the section where you go to do that. There'll be more instructions in your actual software itself that'll let you do that, and you follow those instructions, but this is where you're going to go to be able to enable it in case you're trying to find it. A handy little feature that not many people use, but it's very, very powerful, is the post via email. Basically what it does is it will read an email inbox of your choosing and automatically post content whenever it finds anything. It's a very powerful tool, but has to be utilized properly. You want to set it to a very secret email address that nobody knows about, and not even like an admin or anything like that. Just something that absolutely no one knows and is never used for anything else. So whenever you're sending an email or something like that to that box, it'll automatically get published on your blog for you, which is a very powerful tool. The subject will automatically become the title, and the body and the message will automatically become the content of your blog post. And that is posting via email. Update services. This is your pinging services. Things like Ping-O-Matic and Ping-Goat and all those different things that will notify search engines and linking services and site updating services. All those can be notified every time that you do a post if you put the update service link in here. It's a very useful tool to let the search engines know whenever you've added new content. And that's it for writing. All right, reading settings. There's a couple of different options here for not only reading your blog, but also feed reading with RSS and syndication. So for the most part, most people want to be able to show the latest posts on the home page of their blogs. But for some smaller blogs or some people that maybe want to show the same information to everyone who first enters the site, maybe want to display a static page, and that's a single page of your choosing. So what you want to do is you want to select a page that you want them to always see, and no matter who comes in, it will always show the about or whatever page you select on the home page. So also, if the blog pages show at most however many that you want to show. If you use a lot of excerpts, if you use a lot of summaries with small things, maybe you want to show more to people, or maybe you want to show less because you have full text, you can change that right here. Also, the syndication feeds show the most recent. A lot of times, I will actually put a higher number in here because I want anybody, whoever's reading my feed, I want them to be able to see more posts and have access to more content. So I will actually put that at a higher number. But if you're using a feed for something of your choosing, sometimes you maybe want to put that at a lower number. And also, there's also a feed section here that says for each article in a feed, show full text with a summary. If you select the summary, it will first choose the excerpt, and that's where the excerpt comes into play in this instance for your blog posting. So if you're choosing and writing an excerpt, and whenever a feed is displayed, it will actually pull from that excerpt. Next, it will pull the text up to the read more, and then if there's no read more, it'll just pull up to a certain amount of text to show. So if you wanted to use excerpts to show maybe something a little bit different to your feed people, you can do that with a summary versus full text. And for encoding, UTF is pretty universal, so just go ahead and keep it at that. And that's it for reading. Okay, discussion settings. Discussion settings is actually all of your comment moderation and your commenting settings. We're not going to go over every single one of these here because a lot of them are actually very self-explanatory, but then we're going to go over a couple things in here. First of all, the one thing I do want to touch on is the one thing that it's one of the very few things that they actually do not leave checked when you first install a blog, and that is an administrator must always approve a comment. many instances you actually do want to approve your comments in the beginning or maybe even later, but they don't check that. So sometimes if you're not careful, some things will slide through that you don't want on there, such as derogatory or negative comments. After a while, after comment moderation becomes a full-time job, because you get a lot of comments on there, you maybe want to leave that unchecked. Your comment moderation lines, these are all the words and phrases that you want, if you see them in comments, that you want them held in moderation. Sometimes derogatory comments or obscenity of some sort and something like that, that you may want to put in here to say, well, you know, before I really let that go to the general public of my blog readers, I want to go ahead and make sure that that's okay. And another one would be your comment blacklist. These are the things that you know would be spam, adult content, or maybe scam content or something like that that you know does not pertain to your blog. You can put those here. You can also, don't forget, put email addresses and IPs that you see in the comments section. So if you find that one person keeps spamming your blog over and over again, they'll automatically be marked as spam if you put their IP address, which is available in the comments section. And down here is just your avatar section, the little pictures that show up next to each commenter if the theme has it enabled. Basically, you can show them which one that they want to generate. Some that, if you have maybe a little bit more adult-oriented blog, you maybe have something PGR, or given if that's your thing, you can have something that's even an X-rated or higher. I would advise against that unless you have a warning in the beginning of your site, because it will get you in trouble otherwise. So, and you can also show not to show avatars at all. So that pretty much does it for the comments section. If you have any other things that you had questions on, you can just look at them there. They're pretty self-explanatory. All right, permalinks. This is actually a very, very big one that's used all the time, but not many people really know how to use it. Basically what this does is changes the URL to something a little bit more spider friendly and a little bit more user friendly for people to be able to link to on your blog, and people to be able to see on your blog, and for the spiders to be able to eat keywords off of in your blog. The common settings that they say are actually really not that common. Day and name, month and name, numeric. A lot of people actually really don't use that. A lot of people will actually use a custom structure, but it's a little bit more complicated for some to use if you don't know what they are. So what you can do to change it is you can either just select your different one and you can hit Save Changes, or you can use a custom structure altogether. And what you can do is you can use the tags that are available, and there's a link right here that show you exactly what tags there are, and it shows you these right here. Anything from category to post name to post ID to the date, many different things that are available. So a very common one is the category structure followed by the post name structure. You just simply enter category, a /, and then the post name tag, and then anything that you want after it. I put an HTML in there. It makes some hackers a little bit harder to tell that you're using WordPress because it doesn't say PHP after it. Just different things along those lines. You can put whatever you want in there. You can put a /, you can put nothing at all. You can even put extra keywords in there if you want to, and it will still recognize it. So it's a very, very handy structure to use. One other thing I wanted to touch on was this optional section down here. By default, if they're browsing a category and showing all the posts, up in the URL it'll just show the category. But if you want something to come before that category, such as a targeted keyword or something like that, it's a certain thing that you want to show before the actual category name in your URL, you can put it here. So let's say if you wanted to put categories, and everything that'll show up after that will be the actual category, but it'll actually put that extra category keyword in there, or whatever keyword that you show. Same thing with the tags. If you wanted to put my tags, then and any other tags that will show after that, and it'll give a little bit more logical structure to your URLs. That pretty much does it for permalink settings. Now on to the next section. Alright, a couple final miscellaneous settings that you maybe want to look at that isn't for everybody, but it might be for you, is actually in the uploading section. Whenever you're uploading files, sometimes you don't want things such as protected content or maybe secretive content and stuff like that to just be easily guessed in a certain folder. So what you can do is you can specify an alternate folder in this box here. Also, another thing is that as you start to accumulate, months and years worth of content, by default, WordPress will organize all of their uploads into month and year-based folders. So as you accumulate maybe 4 years worth of uploads, you're going to have 4 years, and then each of these years is going to have 12 months, and then there's going to be each individual file. And that gets pretty folder intensive after a while. If that's not your method of organization, you can uncheck it and it'll just put everything into a bulk folder, and that makes it a lot easier for backup purposes and download purposes. So that's something you may want to consider, but isn't necessarily for everybody. And that about does it for the miscellaneous settings. Okay, media. This is actually a pretty large section, and I wanted to cover it all together because basically it really darts around back and forth a lot between what you have to do and what the different settings are in order to implement your media properly. Media is basically all of your photos, images, videos, audio, anything like that that you would consider multimedia. However, your media is not just limited to those individual things. You can also upload zip files, PDF files, and other such things and attach them to your post much the same way that you do with your photos and other multimedia. And that's actually a lot of things that's something that not a lot of people really know about and therefore don't really fully utilize. So basically, it's pretty straightforward. Your media library is basically going to look a lot like all your other things, such as your editing posts and your editing users and stuff like that once you get media into it. So in order to add new media, obviously you can go under the media and hit add new or add new button next to the title. And it's going to give you an uploader to select. So you click select files, and we're going to go to an individual folder, and we're actually going to start with an image, and it's going to automatically upload it, and it's going to crunch it for optimization for the web automatically for you, so you don't have to do that. Also, you're going to have the ability to put in title, alternate text, caption, a description if necessary. This is really good for search engines. And you're also going to be able to edit your image on the fly inside of WordPress. You're also, once again, not going to need to use an image editor. If you wanted to maybe say flip it horizontally, vertically, or anything along those lines, you can do that within here. You can flip it just like that. You can also scale the image. You can crop the image. You can maintain its aspect ratio. All that stuff can be done right inside of WordPress. It's a very handy tool to use. So once you're done making your changes, you can hit Save All Changes, and that automatically completes that. And so now you have this thing, looks a lot like all the others. And you can also add new things as necessary. Now in this one, we're going to actually add a PDF instead, say loan information. And we're going to add that, and it's going to have a PDF available for you to use. So now that's in there available. So not just images and multimedia, but any file that you want to. Now you're going to want to insert it into a post. So you're going to go to Add New Posts. Up here above your standard bar, your rich text editor bar, you're going to have your multimedia uploads. It's under Upload Insert, and you have different things: image and video and audio, and then media. So for this example, we're just going to use the image. We're going to go up here to Media Library, or you can upload right there on the fly, just like you did from your media. Or if you wanted to hot link something, you can do it straight from a URL. So from another website, for example. So you can do it right there. So we're going to go to our Media Library. We're going to select this thing that we uploaded, and we're going to have the ability to do a couple things here. We can once again edit it right then and there. We can insert a thumbnail version of it, or the actual full size or a medium version of it, and that way we can save space on our blog, especially if it's so big it starts to break the theme. And what we can do is we can put the thumbnail in, and we can have a couple of different options here. The link URL can go to either the full file, which is the image, or let's say the PDF or something like that, or just the post URL, which is basically the attachment to that individual post. So you can click that, and it'll go in there, and it'll actually show you a special page that will only show that attachment. So it's a very handy thing, especially if your theme utilizes it. You hit Insert into Post, File URL, and it'll automatically insert it for you. After, let's say if you want to make edits or changes to it, you can click on this little edit, or if you want to remove it entirely, you can click delete, and it'll do that all automatically for you. It's a very handy tool, and you can use this with just about anything, like I said, including PDFs and including other media as well. Any files apply. One last thing I wanted to do is quickly go over the media settings. If you just go to Settings and Media, you can see you can set a couple of standards for your media settings, such as your embed size, your thumbnail size for your images and stuff like that. Um, and that's in case if the ones that are default for WordPress aren't the ones that you want for your particular blog. If you find yourself always resizing the width of your thumbnails, you can always adjust that right here automatically. And that pretty much does it for media. All right, well, you pretty much went over everything that you needed to do to be a full-fledged advanced WordPress user. Now you know pretty much everything inside and out, where everything goes and where everything belongs. But I figured I would let you know about a couple other things that not many people know that WordPress actually has built into it, and sometimes we'll either use a plugin to use or didn't really know that it was a really nifty shortcut and things like that. So I thought I would go over some of those with you. There's always a lot more than that, and there's sometimes even things that are undocumented inside of WordPress that are little hidden features that are available to you. So we'll go over some of the ones that are a little bit more neat, and some are a little bit more obvious, and some of them are not. First thing I'm going to go over is in the tools section. It's called it's some of these simple tools, and one of these is the gears. What Gears is basically it's something that Google used that allowed people to speed up their websites. Basically, if you installed Gears into your browser onto your site, it'll make your site for you go very, very fast, and that'll really speed up things such as posting and stuff like that. So what you can do is you can enable Gears. The next thing it is, there's a really nifty tool to use. It's called Press This. It's a bookmarklet, and what it does is that if you have Press This enabled on your bookmark section and you're on a site and you can highlight a piece of text, what it'll do is it'll automatically take you to your Add New Post section with the title of the page in there and the content on the page automatically in your post. So no need to copy and paste or download or anything like that. If you find something worth noting that you want to put on your blog, you simply highlight the text on the website that you're on, click the Press This bookmarklet, and it will automatically go to your blog for you. It makes posting news and things like that much, much faster and much easier to use. Okay, another thing that WordPress does that a lot of people actually don't know about and or use plugins to do is that it will automatically embed it'll attempt to embed anyway, all plain text URLs. So for example, if I wanted to post, let's say, a YouTube video into my site, I can click on Add New Post, and I wanted to put a video on here. Well, a lot of times people will use a plugin to put a YouTube video in there, and I have a fun little one here that I wanted to post on my site because I thought it'd be really neat. And so what I'll do is I'll just put the plain text in there and I'll hit published, and then if I view my post, it automatically embeds it for me. No need to put in embed code, no need to switch over editors, no need to do anything like that. I put the URL in and it'll automatically do it for me. So that's a neat little feature that not a lot of people really know about and don't really utilize as a result. So that's something that you can really use that'll be really good for you. Another great feature is the gallery feature. A lot of people don't know this, but WordPress actually will make a gallery for you. A lot of people will use plugins to do this and other things like that, but it can make video and audio and video and photo galleries automatically for you. Over here under the media library, there's this little thing called attach to, and a lot of people say, well, I don't know really what that means, and I guess after I put it in my post, it becomes attached to that, so it's an attachment, and so that's pretty much where they leave it. But if you attach this, let's say to a post that we have, let's search for one. Let's say sample video, and I wanted to select that, and that's going to attach this for me. Now if I actually go to the post, sample video, and I enter a short code, and a short code is basically a special code that allows WordPress to convert things automatically for you, and it's called gallery, and it's built into WordPress automatically. This will convert all of my pages, or, I'm sorry, all of my pictures and images that I have put and attached to this post into a special gallery for me. And so I hit update, and suddenly this appears here. This wide frame with a photo on it and a camera. Now, if you want to, you can click this and it says Edit Gallery, and then this gallery link shows up. You can edit the order that your images are in, what if they're thumbnails or not, and different items such as that. If you have multiple images, you can show how many columns that they're in. You can do a wide variety of things with the gallery, and not many people know that that even exists within WordPress. A lot of people use plugins to do it and things along those lines. So that's actually built into WordPress for you to use immediately. Another interesting feature that's more of a shortcut than anything else that a lot of people really don't know about, or at least don't utilize even if they do know about it, is the fact that you can use keyboard shortcuts just like you do in your actual text editors in real life. So let's say if I wanted to bold something, I can highlight it and hit Control plus B, and I can bold my text. If you wanted to find out what each things are, if you hover over it, you can hit the keyboard shortcut that's displayed right there. So if you wanted to add different things, you can use keyboard shortcuts instead of having to stop what you're doing and then go up and select the appropriate thing. This is actually a very useful shortcut if you use a lot of rich text formatting inside of your posts. One last thing that I wanted to show that was kind of a neat little feature that not everybody knew about was that you didn't have to always go into your database sometimes if you wanted to pull certain things out of it. A lot of times you can find some hidden things in there or stuff that plugins have left behind that may sometimes be a security vulnerability or something like that, such as Amazon S3 secret keys and stuff like that, that if you've uninstalled the plugin, it still leaves behind. So one thing you can do is up in your URL, I'll go ahead and I'll drag this down for you. If up here, if you want to, you type in options.php, which is not actually able to be accessed by any sort of link inside of WordPress. You actually have to type that in manually. Click on it. It'll bring up your entire options table for you. It'll show you all the different options that you have in here that may have been left behind by either WordPress or maybe by even a plugin. And a lot of plugins will use this option table to store its information. So you can sometimes find some different info in here that you may want to clean out or something like that that might not be something you want to either leave in there or something along those lines. So it's just a little quirky back-end thing that you're not always going to use, but sometimes it can come in real handy for you. And that's pretty much it for the small tips for now. There's always a ton more that are out there, and if I ever find any more, I'll be sure to be able to post for future videos about it. So alright, thank you very much. This pretty much does it for all the videos, and if you have any questions or something, don't forget to email me or contact me. So thank you very much.